It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench Media that's bold, black, and beautiful.
Good evening, it's your man, Brian H-Rap B. Williams. I should know my own name. Brian H-Rap B. Williams at the End of the Bench Media. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, I want you to hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. First and foremost, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I also want you to start going to www.theendofthebench.com, www, the name of the show, theendofthebench.com. You can watch it live. You can watch previous episodes. I've recently updated the entire website. I remodeled it. It's dope. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's dope. I need you to check it out. Let me know what you think. Tell a friend to tune in. You can watch the same thing here. You can watch previous episodes. You can get a better concept of who I am. Third and almost most importantly, I want to thank my new subscribers. My subscription base went up 38% this week. I went from I literally quintupled my viewership on a monthly basis. I went to last month. I want to thank each and every one of you guys. 20,000 people tuned in to the End of the Bench. 22,300 to be exact. 22,300. I want to thank all 22,300 of you for tuning in, hitting that like, hitting that share, telling a friend to tell a friend. It feels good to understand that I'm reaching people and people are understanding what I'm putting down. They're picking up what I'm putting down. Thank you for tuning in. Now, as I do every week, I thank my parents, Dolores and John. Without them, there is no me. Without me, there is no The End of the Bench. There is no Build and Destroy. And thank you to Dolores and John and everybody who's genetically and socially connected to me. Thank you for the support and everything that you provide. This week is the first week of a new venture with the End of the Bench podcast. This is a t-shirt from our sponsor, a local sponsor, a local logo, a local brand called Style Gods. And their logo is everybody loves fashion. Not everybody has style. Go to www.stylegods.com, STYLEZ gods.com. Check them out. Dope stuff. It is very, very impressive. Salute to the brothers who are doing that. And thank you for the sponsorship. Now, here we go again. And, money, power, respect. That's the title this week. Money, power, respect is a situation that we all want. We all need and want money. We all require respect and we want power. As a community, power. We don't need individual power. Oprah Winfrey has power. Barack Obama, former president Barack Obama has power. Current vice president, soon to potentially be the next president, first woman president of the United States of America. She has power. You have people who had power, Russell Simmons and R. Kelly. You have people, Sean Combs had power. LeBron James has a monicum of power. Other people who I could name, Mr. Johnson. There's a million people that we can say have power in some form, shape, or fashion. We all, as a community, need power, and we actually have the power that we want. But what I want you to understand is this: the power that we request, the power we want, and the power we need is right here in the palm of your hand. You call it a cell phone. It could either be a tool or a toy. I would prefer it be 50-50. No one needs to be focused on serious things at all times. We need to have a little fun. That's when it's a toy, but it needs to be a tool so you can do some research, so you can understand what you're dealing with, and you can understand what's on the way, on the horizon. You have a ton of people in these United States of America that are doing everything they can to slow down everything that you want to do. So that's when that power comes in. Power is us working as a collective to get our community in the best possible situation it could be in. We no longer want people in our community to just be lackadaisical. We can no longer assume that things will be done, because guess what? For the last 56 years, since the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered in the streets of Memphis, and I said that to be hyperbolic, that's when we start, it seems to me, we started to relax as a community, because we assume with the Civil Rights Act, we assume with the Voters' Rights Act, we assume because our children are being born into a country where they have all of their man-given rights, constitutionally afforded rights. So you relax, and then all of us start getting good government jobs, and we start thinking we were on the rise, and people started improving their lives, and home ownership started to be on the rise. And slowly but surely, in the 1970s, that took a wild left. We were no longer in charge. We went right back to a plantation style mentality. I'm never going to refer to us as slaves. If you are being compensated for your labor, you are never being treated as a slave. Now, you can be treated poorly in a labor situation, but you will never be treated as a slave if you engage. Now, engaging is the key. You must engage in what's going on around you. The days of I'm really not into politics, they must die. They must die, because at one point in our lives, we could turn on NBC, CBS, ABC, WGN, Fox, and get information that will edify our need to know what's going on in our community. If you watch your local news, you'll get the local information, and you can basically disseminate what was real and what was not. If you watch national news like CBS News at night, 60 Minutes, 2020, Ted Koppel, Peter Jennings, so forth and so on, you got information. You can watch the Today Show and Good Morning America, and you would get information that would assist you in assessing what was going on in your community, because at that point, news was not a for-profit business. What I want you to understand is this: news is a television show, and I don't have my camera on. That's why I'm looking up at the camera, and I'm not realizing that my camera is not on. So what I'm going to do now is look down at my camera and understand that now I'm talking directly to you, right? I'm tripping, or I could put on my HD camera, whatever. But as we talk, it may switch, and then you'll understand where I was coming from. That's where I was coming from. And what I want you to understand is this: oh, we going back to the other camera. Oh no, we're not doing that. We're gonna go back to the non-HD camera, and we'll get a better picture. And there you go. But as I was stating, we will be looking at a situation to whereas the news is a television show now. It is here for ratings. It is here for the scuttlebutt. It is here for the minutiae. We don't get into the minutiae of politics. We get into the situation to whereas we're playing, we're joking around, and it is childish and sophomoric, to say the least. We can no longer live in that world. We can no longer participate in a situation to whereas the people on the television who's supposed to be disseminating information to uplift us, we can no longer listen to those people. It's a television show. It is a television show. We're not talking about the issues. We're not talking about the things that we need to get done. We're not talking about how to advance things. We're not talking about any of those things. What we're talking about is gossip. What we're talking about is a situation to whereas we are not getting socially fed the information so we can enhance our lives. We can no longer depend on the NBC, CBS, TNT, or whatever news. And what's going to happen is we're going to continue to fall behind structurally. And if we continue to fall behind structurally, we will at this point, we are at a point of inflection. What is a point of inflection? A point of inflection is when you meet a fork in the road, and either you go down the left side, which is the right side, or you go down the right side, and you will be dealing with things that could potentially be treacherous and dangerous to your future. And that's what we're dealing with. We have a ton of people giving us misinformation, and the people who are supposed to be giving us misinformation, what they're doing is this. What they're doing is pretending that we are getting the information that is going to edify our needs. And that is not going to work. We just saw our vice president, the vice president of the United States of America, the second most powerful human being on earth. They tell you the president is the most powerful individual in the world. The second most powerful individual in the world is the vice president. And what does that do? This person has been attacked for things that we don't even need to know about. Do you honestly understand that the party that is opposed to the Democratic Party, they are actually asking questions like, why didn't the vice president of the United States of America put McDonald's on her employment resume? What in the entire hell does her working at McDonald's as a team have to do with her ability to run the country and, in essence, be the leader of the free world? These are the things we're talking about. We are challenging this person's race. We saw this joke. What is that? 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Well, actually 16 years ago, we saw this same joke. Barack Obama isn't black enough. They went as far as to call him a African American. We can no longer participate in this madness and this foolishness, black people. Why are we allowing people to insult the people who are from our community? We got celebrities, and I'm going to talk about that later. Foolish, moronic, sophomoric celebrities stepping up, pretending to present platinum plans, and I'll tell you about that later, talking about issues that they know absolutely nothing about, and mentioning in the midst of conversations, when I talked to her, I didn't know this. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but if I had the opportunity to sit down with Vice President Harris, I would do my due diligence in regards to studying what her policies are, studying what her past is, and putting myself in a situation to whereas I wouldn't sound like a damn fool as I spoke to this woman. This woman has been a state's attorney, a U.S. attorney for the state of California, a U.S. senator, and now the vice president. And you had the privilege to sit down with someone that powerful, and you didn't understand who you were talking to. How asinine are you? How stupid are you? That's just stupid. That's not ignorant. That's not uninformed. That's stupid, because if you're sitting down with someone who is that powerful, you need to know all their policies. You need to know what they stand for. You need to know what they were about. Well, what exactly did you talk about? And this is what we're dealing with. When you had Dana Bass on television, she has a plan to give the average citizen, just like you and I, $25,000. $25,000 when you go to buy a home. Do you understand the relief that gives someone who's attempting to buy a home? She's trying to reinstitute the child child tax credit, which means people with children who are struggling from day to day, bam. This is what you're going to be able to do. We're going to put $3,500, we're going to put $2,500, we're going to put $1,500 in your account annually. How about this? Annually, just like that $1,200 that everybody was bragging about, that was issued by the United States federal government, not by the president of the United States. Because if you don't understand civics, the purse strings of the United States of America are held by the U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. That's how it works. If they don't approve it, nothing gets spent. And the president is the CEO that signs it. It's kind of like one of our parents or two of our parents work, they come together, they write out the bills, and one of them may sign the check. That's all. He didn't do it, or they didn't do it. They did it together. And that's what happened. The president does not deal with the day-to-day operations of the United States of America. He's in charge of the military. Understand that. I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to keep saying it, but that's the way the whole situation works. And we're sitting in the situation bragging about $1,200. And then how was it? This is all I want to know. For you people who, hey man, he gave us a stimulus check. He gave you $1,200. That is almost equivalent to $1 a day, because he was in office for more than 1,000 days. So 365 times 4, that's what he was in office. And you want to brag about less than $1 a day. And by the way, You can only get that stimulus check if you were broke. So how in the entire hell, once again, where's life better under former President Donald Trump? Because if you qualify for the stimulus, that means you didn't get it cracking. Another thing, you want to turn over control of the free world to a person who received a dossier from former President Barack Obama about an airborne pandemic attacking the United States of America. He threw it in the garbage. He disregarded it. This dude told you to drink bleach or shoot it into your veins. And that's the guy you want to deal with. You also want to hear people, well, he was a good businessman. You know what? A lot of us fall on hard times. A lot of us have an opportunity in need of an opportunity to bounce back. Yours truly included. But what I want you to understand is this dude inherited $300 million and he has filed bankruptcy 7 times. That's 7 times a failure with one hell of a head start. 300 million, 7 times I couldn't get it done. And you want me to believe he's a successful businessman. Never heard of Bill Gates filing for bankruptcy. I've never heard of Warren Buffett filing for bankruptcy. I never heard of Steve Jobs filing for bankruptcy. I never heard of anybody of any precedence that you know of that filed bankruptcy 7 times besides this dude. But he's a leader. He's a game show host. He's a game show host. And this is who you want to be the leader of the free world. You want somebody who's passed the California bar, who's been elected to as a civil servant on every level of government, local, statewide, countrywide, and now the federal government, one of the leaders of the federal government. She's a tiebreaker in Congress. So guess what? If it ever came down to you getting another stimulus check, she would be the person to say, give it to him. And opposed to a person who took the greatest economy, one of the greatest economies in the history of the United States of America, and ran it into the ground. He's the first president to spend $7 trillion, put the country in a $7 trillion deficit. Don't ask me what that deficit is, because I don't owe nobody $7 trillion. But when he walked into office, they had a surplus. When he left, it was a $7 trillion deficit. So this is who you're putting up against. Look, we don't care what Donald Trump said about her cultural aspects. What we do want to know is, will women get their maternal health care rights back? This is a person who walked into office and did away with things, allow people to do away with things like DEI. DEI came about after that pandemic, and our brother George Floyd was murdered on the streets of Minnesota. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, that's no more. They are literally firing people from diversity, equity, and inclusion. They could have asked about that. They could have asked about the potential funding. They could have asked about being taxed, like some people are discussing being taxed on your tip money if you are a waitress or a waiter. Yeah, if you're in the service industry, you get a tip. Guess what? Her tax plan does make you have a tip, but it's only for people who are making over $100,000 a year. Because guess what? There's people on Wall Street that get what can be deemed as the equivalent of a tip and or a bonus that are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, or even a quarter. This is why these people are driving these fancy cars. This is why they live in these wonderful houses. And this is why they go on these elaborate vacations, living a lavish life. But guess what? Those people are going to be taxed more. This is what your former president 44 years ago was talking about when he's talking about the trickle-down effect. If you have this much money, why is it that you just can't have a little less? And then if you have a little less, you'll be able to work with people who have less than you to make the country work. Because if only people getting richer are the very rich and the extreme rich, then that's a problem. Ask Marie Antoinette, look into French history and ask Marie Antoinette, how does it work when only the people at the top win? When only the people at the top win, the people at the bottom start to rise up and they start to hurt people. And this is why she was beheaded, because the people at the bottom were starving and the people at the top were living a king's life. And this is what we're not talking about. Why are we only talking about foolishness, race, former employers, ex-boyfriends? I even heard a jackass say she used to be an alcoholic. Well, guess what? Former President Bush used to use drugs on a regular basis. I'm not gonna call him an addict. I don't know if he was addicted, but he openly admitted that he used to be a user of cocaine. But he became president. But you talk about alcoholism. And the person who said is a person who I know abuses alcohol on a regular basis. But that's neither here nor there. We need to be talking about the issues. We need to be talking about discrimination. We need to be talking about the fact that the teaching of Black history is being left off the dossier in academic schools throughout the United States of America. You even have a guy who's running against that who literally said, I want to defund schools that are teaching critical race theory. First of all, this shows the ignorance that this dude has. Critical race theory is an elective at a grad school level. So if you're not going to get your master's degree, you won't even have the opportunity to get the class critical race theory. What they want to say, what they're truly trying to say is, if you're being taught your accurate history, then we don't want that. That takes us out of power. It empowers the impoverished. It gives hope to the disenfranchised. And when you give hope to people who are subjugated, what happens is they rise up and take some of your power. But if it's supposed to be a situation to whereas everybody's participating in this democracy or hypocrisy that you want us to participate in, it needs to be an even situation. If it's an even situation, if we even, some people will be leaving. And when I mean leaving, that means other communities will rise, and the communities with the most creativity, with the most stick-to-itiveness, and the most intestinal fortitude will rise above others. And it seems as if the people who are at the top now are definitely afraid of this. If you disagree with what I'm saying, all you need to do is start looking at some of these comedy clips by this dude named Jordan Kelper. Jordan Kelper goes around to people who support the other side. And then when I say the other side, I don't mean people who are Republican and or Democrat. I'm talking about people who support people who are oppressors. When you're talking about these things, if you are a supporter of an oppressor, this is the problem. You're looking at people and you're dealing with people from an oppressive mind state. And if you're dealing with people from an oppressive mind state and you're aligning yourself with them, that means you too, sir, ma'am, are an oppressor. You walk up to people, he walks up to people, and he mentions the fact that you have people who say, hey, Joe Biden was spent $200,000 covering up one of his sexual scandals. And they say he should get the book thrown at him. He needs to be incarcerated. He needs to be impeached. And they say, oh, just a second, I made a mistake. That was Trump who did that. And they make excuses for him. Whether you're a supporter of Trump or not, you cannot switch your answers. Your moral compass cannot change in accordance to who you do or do not support. Either you are a good person or you're not. I do not support rape under any circumstances. I do not support abuse in any circumstances. I do not support thievery under any circumstances. I do not support an insurrection under any circumstances. If our current Vice President Harris, if she supported that, I wouldn't support her. If my brother supported it, I wouldn't support him. This is letting you know this is a low vibrating, immoral person. And if this person gets in order, that means the people who look like them and the people who are aligned with them, it's okay that they put the boot on your neck and they will openly tell you, no, I don't think that way. But then they come out and say things of that nature. This is why we can no longer trust the news. You must tune into programs like this. You must do your own research and you must do your own due diligence so you can get the best for you. What I would suggest is create a situation that to make a perfect world for the younger people in your home. Or if you are at age of a parent, that the world could be better for your children, or the world could be better for you if you're a younger person. But I looked at the numbers. The average person listening to this is 44 to 64. So that means we already have children, grandchildren, and a transition into seniorhood. So guess what? We need to be making the world better for the younger people in this world. And if you are dealing with the people of this administration that is insanely immoral, you are setting yourself up for abject failure. And those are just the facts. If you are not willing to take the necessary steps to ensure the future of the younger people in your home or in your circle, I'm sorry, you are part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. We don't need to be doing name calling and scuttlebutt and finger pointing. What we need to do is create a dossier of our own, a communal dossier, a family dossier, and put ourselves in situations to where as we continue to excel, we continue to lift all the boats around us. That's just the way it needs to be. And if we're not willing to do those things, please don't complain when things are not in your favor. I'm dealing with things in my own situation, so I can't do that. No, your situation expands outside of your home. I need to clean up around my house and don't worry about anybody else. Hey, guess what? If you are not raising your children properly and you're not making sure the world is good for your children, the people down the street, they're not going to raise their children properly. And guess what? We have total chaos and mass confusion. And that's what we're dealing with at this point. We don't have a situation, at this point, we don't have a situation of checks and balances. Why was it a problem? And why was it enough problem to attack women's reproductive rights? Why is that a problem? You know why? Because that's just step one to attack your reproductive rights, to attack your ability to defend yourself, to have proper health care, proper dental care, proper mental health care. What's the problem with giving people a universal health care that affords the average everyday citizen in the United States of America the ability to go get medical attention and mental, physical, and health, no matter what it is? What's the problem with that? We don't have a problem with that, do we? But it seems that we do because we allow those things to happen. That's a problem. What is a universal income? Guess what? Most of the developed countries, because they don't call them third world and fourth world countries anymore. What's the problem with a universal income? Guess what? These are the things that Dr. King talked about over 55 years ago. The great Dr. Martin Luther King talked about these things. And guess what? Most of the developed countries throughout the world, they have it, a basic income. So guess what? You don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about lights. And then you can go to school and you can develop an income so you can live the life that you want. Oh man, people gonna be lazy and not do it, but don't worry about those people. Because contrary to what you actually believe, it is more people getting up off their black and whites and Asian and Latino asses and going to work every day and dealing with assholes and nonsensical people who don't want to treat you like a human being. So what happens if you have the ability to not stress about work, not stress about rent, not stress about lights, and all you have to do is pay for the amenities of your life, like a cell phone, and then if you want cable television, and then if you want to go to school and become a nurse, become a writer, become an actor, become a person in technology, a plumber, or what have you, you have the ability to do that. There are certain countries that treat people who get out of incarcerated institutions called prisons here in the United States of America, and they are living better lives than us. When you're in prison in Switzerland, you go to a prison, it is not a cage. It is almost like a little apartment. They get mental health care, they get job training, and when they get out, they get a place to stay, and then placed in a place of employment, and their recidivism rate is almost nothing. But instead, here in the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world, what do? We put our people in cages. We treat them like animals. We put them in damn crime labs so they can get their PhD in criminology, so I can sit around with other criminals and say what the system is not doing for me. I don't have the proper mental health, and guess what? I hit the street, and guess what? That blemish, that mistake that I made, that poor choice that I made, that left turn when I should have made a right turn I made, follows me around for the duration of my life. I can't go back to my mom's house because she lives in public housing. I don't have anybody else to connect with. I have people in my family looking down their noses at me. And guess what? I'm right back into the penitentiary, or right back into the system, or right back into criminality because I'm attempting to survive. That's not positive. That's not conducive to a mental health world. So if you want to continue to look at the news, continue to argue about this nonsensical foolishness, and continue to turn a blind eye to what's going on in your country, and you will continue to suffer the ills of white nationalists, oppressive people, and hate mongers. And that's what you will do. What I'm going to do is take a break and show you this. Like I told you, everything is not about empowerment. Some of this stuff is about entertainment. I want to show you something that's on Amazon Prime. I think it's going to be pretty good. It's football season. It's coming up. My man Michael Vick is hosting this. Check it out. This is H-Rap. I'll be back shortly.
evolution. It's where we were and where we still have to go. To really understand the evolution of the black quarterback, I needed to take a journey. Charlie Ward, Warren. Across America.
What's up, my man?
Across history.
Well, let's get to it. Playing quarterback, it was a position of leadership. They didn't want African Americans having that type of power. We had some guys that paved the way for us. Fritz Pollard, Marlon Briscoe, Doug Williams,
Randall Cunningham,
Warren Mold.
The black quarterback showed that you can play the position like nobody had ever seen before.
Guys like you showed that whatever your dream is, you can go and achieve it.
Being a black quarterback is something that I don't take for granted. Playing quarterback really taught me how to persevere.
Are you kidding me?
We all got a responsibility to the next generation.
It's about how can you pass the torch when the game is ended for you.
Tell me a little bit about your high school career.
Now, I did throw a couple of interceptions.
Come on now.
When I hear the term black quarterback, I think of revolution.
They say we weren't smart enough. They say we couldn't lead.
We're watching a story of struggle, a story of success. The black quarterback is a symbol of what's possible.
History at Super Bowl 57. For the first time ever, two black quarterbacks will compete against each other.
This is our moment. No better time to be great than today.
If they write a story on the National Football League, could they leave you out of it?
No.
That's the impact. This is going to be.
Now, I'm back. I'm back in HD. Change the camera. This is the End of the Bench Media. I am Brian H. Rap B. Williams. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that like, hit that share. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Make sure you subscribe. Because if you notice, I ain't get a notification this week. I need you to do that. And again, check out www.theendofthebench.com. Let me know what you think. You can catch old episodes. You can understand what I'm doing here. You can understand the brand that I'm building. And again, this evening, this episode was brought to you by the new brand and my new sponsor, Style Guys. Style Guys. Everybody loves fashion. Not many people have style. So check out the Style Guys at www.styleguys.com. It's important that you do so they keep hitting me a little chain. With that being said, thank you for tuning in again. But that seems to be an excellent documentary. It's going to be an interesting situation. My man Mike Vick doing it on Amazon Prime. Yeah, mental health institution. Yeah, they closed mental health institution. Crime Way with exactly. That's my man T. Shelton. Thank you for the support, T. It's always good to see you, man. And everybody else who's in the chat room, everybody else who's coming to support, I really appreciate it. Hit that like, hit that share. And again, check www.theendofthebench.com for this and other content. It's important. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you to all the additional subscribers and new people who came to the program and platform. I truly, truly appreciate it. It made me feel stupendous to have my subscription base go up 4 times and my viewership go up 5 times. 5 times what it normally is. We talk about 22,700 people, 23,000. As a matter of fact, let me get the actual number for you. 23,700 people, 23,700 people you tapped in last month. I really appreciate it. Month of August was awesome. My birthday month. Thank you for tuning in. That's how you sponsor. Keep helping your boy out. Help your boy. With that being said, thank you again. Everybody in the chat room, Porty Sands, my man Big Mo, Glasses Horror, T. Shelton, Great Felicious, Alicia Jefferson. Oh, Alicia, what's up? It's good to see you. Northside in the building. It's always good to see y'all. Thank y'all for the support. And everybody else, if I didn't say your name, Flat Tie in the building. Good to see you, man. Thank you, Ty. With that being said, this is what we have to start paying attention to. As I mentioned in the previous segment, we always told your vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't count. And we got people paying attention to our women's uteruses. We got people paying attention to we shouldn't be paying for LGBTQ medications and things of that nature. Understand, when we're dealing with people who are oppressive, you are in line to be oppressed next. We're going to deal with the migrants, or AKA the immigrants. Then we're going to deal with the Latinos. Then we're going to deal with the blacks. Then we're going to deal with the women in the midst of this, we dealing with the women every step of the way because we're gonna kick women in the face every chance we get. Black women, Latino women, Asian women, we kicking them all in the face. We gonna kick the black woman in the face twice because she keep making all these black ass men. So we kicking her first and the hardest. And then we're just going to continue to trickle down until we get a white nationalist society who are dealing with white nationalist issues and doing away with doing things that white nationalists do. So you can pretend that you don't really care and it really don't affect you, or you can just be asinine and fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Or what you can do is this, is put yourself in a situation to whereas you will make a difference in your life. Point blank, period. End of the story. We have to come together and understand what's going on first and foremost. Your vote does count because your vote, damn, who's the president? Let me say that again. Damn, who's the president? I don't give a damn if Bozo the Clown is the president, right? Because he's not the most powerful man in this whole situation. The Speaker of the House and the controller of the Speaker of the House and the head of the Senate, those are the people with the most power. You need 60 people in the United States Senate who agree with you, or at least align with what you do. And then you need 370 people in the House of Representatives that do what you do. If your political people, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, are not telling you to vote down ballot, that means it's time to separate. Like I told you last week, we're going to hold our nose. We're going to vote for our sister Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. And we're going to roll with these people one more time. But the work starts the day after Election Day. By that time, we're talking about almost 2 months. We got all of September, all of November, October, and in the beginning of November. That means you have enough time to comprise a plan of what's really bothering you and your community. Are your children being taught academically what they need to be taught? It has been documented and proven time in and time out that if your children are not seeing their faces and their history in those books, they tap out. So Black history needs to be taught. Diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be enforced. Because if you are not getting the best academic instructors, in your schools, your children are not being taught properly. I don't care how many people say, I don't see race. You are a lie, and because most people will engage with their community a little more in depth than they do other communities. It's just natural. It is just natural. Are there fair people in every single community in history of the world? Yes, it is. Are there crooked people in every single community in history of the world? Yes, they are. But what we are not going to do is wait another 60 years in hopes that people change their way. No, they're not. Because guess what? Before integration, you had primarily instructors that look like us in our institutions and look at 1959 to about 1930 and how many businesses were open, what our our literacy rates, our home ownerships. You know why? Because we were teaching each other and we were enhancing. People like W.B. Du Bois in 1960, the very 1960 that I'm speaking of, he even said it. He said, at some point, this is a paraphrase, at some point, these laws will change. And then you'll have institutions being taught by people who used to oppress people. And those institutions will take out what's important to us and infuse their academic rhetoric into our children. Our children will drop out of school and they'll be no longer interested in learning. And what will happen then? That is almost a quote, but it's a paraphrase. And that's exactly what has happened 64 years later. 64 years later, it happened. So are you willing to wait another 64 years for things to turn around? No, you're not. You have certain idiosyncrasies about any and every community in the United States of America and throughout the world that those people in that community can identify with. So there's certain things that a young man that looks like most of the people watching this look like you and I, that we can identify with that young man or that woman. We know certain things we can say to that person, and we can get that person activated. I am a picture perfect dictionary definition of that. Ray Shannon, Miss Bradley, Miss Johnson, And guess a white woman by the name of Miss Dow tapped into me academically, 6th grade, 1981, Chicago, Illinois, William E. Gladstone Elementary School. So I like history, and she gave me practical application, how history tied into everything. I became a better student because of this. But guess what? If I can go, I can give you every instructor from Head Start, Bush, Wood, Bradley, Zach, Johnson, Bullock, Norwood, Dow, Adams. That's my entire elementary experience. And guess what? One white woman, and she was the only person even come close to tapping in. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. But when I think about Bradley, when I think about Johnson, I think about Bullock, and I think about Adams, they touched me. They reached in and they massaged my ego when it was needed to be. They wagged their finger when it needed to be, and they grabbed me in my collar when it needed, metaphorically, grabbed me in my collar when it needed to be, because they understood who I am, who I was, and what I needed. I'm not saying that people from other communities can't do that, but it's the likelihood of those people understanding me. They understood me and they got me in order. When I went to high school, I had Shannon, I had Butler, and so forth and so on. I had people who understood who I was, and they knew I was unique, and I was aloof. I didn't engage. Practical application was not a situation to me. And that's what we need to be understanding. Practical application. It is all cyclical. If you don't understand these things, and you don't understand how these things connect, you don't understand why you need to do that. I was able to infuse that right into my son, because he is a carbon copy of me academically. If it didn't work, he checked out. If it did add up, he checked out. So this is why I push for the situation to where we have our people teaching our children, unless you're an exceptional instructor. I'm not saying if you're not part of my community, you can't teach my community, but there's a special connection when you see yourself in that young woman and you're a woman teacher, or you see yourself in that young man. You can identify being a person who was disengaged because he didn't see the importance of math. He didn't see, oh, wow, I can count. Why do I need to learn math? Because it's not about the numbers. Algebra and geometry is not about the numbers. It's about the thinking process that goes into numbers. Now you're a lateral thinker. And what helps? Why I need to be a lateral thinker? Because if you need to be able to write something out, you need to be able to explain it to the masses, not to just who knows you. That's why English and math go right in hand. Oh, why do I need to learn history? Because for one, history empowers you. History empowers you. When you know your past, you become stronger because of your past. And when you're in an oppressive and racially engaged system that we are in, a racist country, no matter what for our Vice President Kamala Harris said, and no matter what that bozo Tim Scott says, the United States of America is a racist country. But history teaches you about the racism. History teaches you about the oppression, and history teaches you how to guide through that landfill and become a successful individual, no matter what you come into. You think, oh, it'll never happen. Then you find out about people like Madam C.J. Walker, Addie Malone. You find out about Ruth Bader. You find out about, I can't think of her name. I'm seeing her face. When you find out about these sisters, when you find out about how powerful our sister Rosa Parks was, when you find out about, you think, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired is a rap lyric. No, that comes from a sister by the name of Fannie Lou Hamer, who was born on a plantation, taught herself how to read so she could vote, got almost beat to death for these things. These are the things that you learn about, that the people who are in power, who don't want you to know because they know it will empower you, will not teach you. This is why it's important. And then you'll understand those things. And then you'll understand how science ties into English, math, history, because without English, you can't write out the science project. Without math, you can't put the pieces together and make it add up. Without English, you cannot, again, I say you can't explain it to someone. Without history, you don't know what the mistakes that was made before. See, all of these things, that's practical application. And that's how you have to teach your children, because sometimes children just don't learn by saying, go do math and go learn this. And they're like, yeah, whatever. That's not my thing. Math is everybody's thing. Everybody can count. Everybody, you are a walking history example. You're a walking English example. You're a walking mathematic example. You are that. So this is why you must learn them all and master them all at your level. Math if you're a mechanic, math if you're a computer science, math if you're a video gamer. History teaches you how many times I lost to this person and what he did to me to lose, make me lose, and I won. These tie it into the child, not your way. Your way is your way, not the child's way. But one way that we need to get a hold of is the way of history. History shows us how the former president stopped. Your vote don't count. History tells you that's a lie because he loaded the federal courts. So I'm going to sue, and then I'm gonna get my justice. Not if the judge is a bigot, not if the judge is an oppressor, not if the judge is a Proud Boy or an originalist, because at that point law is being interpreted. It's my interpretation of it. So this is the way it is. That puts you in a trick bag that you will never get out of. So now all the federal judges were placed by a person who I believe is a white nationalist. I'm not gonna call him white nationalist because I don't know it, but all the things that he do and all the things that he said aligns with white nationalism. So that's why I believe you're a white nationalist. With that being said, we're in a situation to whereas you are being held at bay. You're being held at bay with the court system. And then guess what? Your vote didn't count. And we're not going to vote for Sister Clinton because Sister Clinton helped create the crime bill. So did Maxine Waters. So did John Lewis. So did a whole host of other Black people. C. Dolores Tucker and other people. They did that. But they did it in the midst of fear because we were infused with guns and drugs by the R&B era. Not music, as I say every week. Reagan and Bush put crack and guns in our streets. Did we use them? Of course we did. Of course we did, because a lot of those men and women were in survival mode. So they use guns and drugs to basically survive, because they were thinking about right now. They were not thinking about in 1990 nothing. They were not thinking about in 2000 anything, and that's what they were doing. Let me see. And you cannot be a boss of business owner without English and math. Shout out to my sister Alicia. Always good to see you. Thank you for the support. Northside is always in the building. It's always good. Lincoln Park in the building. Thank you. Exactly. These things will teach you everything that you need to know. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be proficient. Proficient. And guess what? If you work together, somebody might be good in English. You may be good in math. Together, you can write a business plan and become a billionaire. And that's what we need to think. We also, again, back to the judicial situation, they packed the courts and they also packed the Supreme Court because you didn't want to vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton because she was part of the crime bill, which she actually wasn't. She was the wife of the president of the United States. The last time I checked, Michelle Obama ain't constructed any legislation, but that's neither here nor there. What I want you to understand is this. We are in a situation to whereas the courts are against us now. Ask women, you can't even go get a Pap smear without a referral now. A Pap smear. This is what a woman needs to stay alive. This is what a woman needs to be alive. Thyroid problems. A lot of women have that now. You need to get that checked out. This again, but you got people trying to tear down the Affordable Care Act. Y'all call it Obamacare. It's called the Affordable Care Act. But guess what? It really needs to be called Romney Care. Because then the state of Massachusetts used that exact plan in the state of Massachusetts, and it works. Fast forward, President Barack Obama did the same thing, made it nationwide. And contrary to what all the white nationalists since the Franklin Delano Roosevelt era wanted, Black people got health care. He didn't do anything for us. Health care is for you. You can't say it's for Black people because then you have people who stand up and sue the government, just like they did when the Department of Agriculture cheated Black farmers out of millions of acres of farmland. And so they tried to give them their money back. And guess what? They sued them for it. So what you do is you put things about like impoverished. This is for the country. But at who it affects? Miss Harris, Vice President Harris, she ain't doing nothing for Black folks. She said she won't do nothing for Black folks. Well, who you think put that situation in so you can get student loans approval, student loans done away with? You think Biden did that? Don't be foolish, because it's not his get down. He was opposed to it. He's been opposed to it for decades. But guess what? They didn't put that in play. That's been in play for decades. It just laid dormant. Again, if we don't study these rules, it's just like anything else. Look, I do this every week. Go in a spiritual situation. You study to deem yourself worthy with God. You need to study to deem yourself worthy to your grandchildren, because you are their God. And they're going to look up to you, and you're going to look up to the Creator. Back to the story. These people are doing everything they can legally to ensure your ignorance. They don't want you to teach them diversity, equity, inclusion. They want to tell you that she isn't doing anything. One more thing before I get out of this. Off this topic, Vice President Harris. Also, Donald Trump gave $500 million to HBCUs. The Biden-Harris administration gave $17 billion to HBCUs. Again, do you really believe President Joseph Robinette Biden did that? Or did the sister do it? Seeing how she's a graduate of HBCU, seeing like she's a part of the Divine Nine. So you really believe Joseph Robinette Biden did that? Of course he did, because we know Boss gonna look out for us, because they've been doing it for the last 400 years, right? No, wrong. So they packed the courts that are not in your favor. How you think since 1972 they've been trying to fight abortion? You don't have to agree with abortion. You can be diametrically opposed to abortion. You can hate it. You can think it's a sin, it's an abomination. God gonna get you for it. But again, if God gonna get me for it, I thought God said, let me handle it. Won't you do what I told you to do? Kind of like your parents. Don't smoke cigarettes, because I smoke cigarettes. It's gonna kill you. Don't do what I do. Do what I said. And maybe we need to get in order with that. Don't kill. Well, God kill people in the Bible. Don't you kill nobody, because you can't send you to hell since you're so spiritually bounded. But what we need to do is engage. Ketanji Brown Jackson is speaking about situations to where there need to be some type of ethics clause in being a Supreme Court justice. How is it that you are the final say in law in the United States of America, but you have billionaires giving you gifts, and you won't recluse yourself from the case? There needs to be some type of parameter set up against Supreme Court justices. If you accepting gifts, you don't need to be a Supreme Court justice, because if justice is blind, how you see the gifts? See, now we can no longer do this anymore. Everybody must be engaged. If you get up and go to work every day, if you know 10 songs by heart, you need to be learning this stuff that I'm talking about. Or you can keep tapping in. I would love to have you keep tapping in. But once you make it so my podcast is irrelevant, I need 100,000 of y'all to tap in for about 3 years. 22,000 did last month. I need 100,000 of y'all to tap in for about 3 years. Then I won't have to do this anymore, and I can go on to do what I want to do. Okay. But anyway, like I said, man, we must get engaged with this. We must. Guess what? You can expand the Supreme Court. You can expand the Supreme Court. It's 9 now. You can expand it to 11. And if you expand it to 11 or even 13, now you can rewrite all the wrongs that have been done to women's health care, the 1964 Voters' Rights Act, the 1965 Civil Rights Act, and we can make those acts laws. And guess what? You can't change a law. You can change an act, though. You can't change the law. These are the things that we must engage in. And then we can become civically minded and start having these elected officials, state senators, what we call aldermen, city councilmen, making sure the academics in your community is up to par. Why is it that in Lincoln Park High School from my neighborhood has a law class, they had dance studios, they had a band, they had biology, they had chemistry, they had physics, they had 2 separate foreign languages. And I think if I didn't say computer science in the 80s, they didn't have those opportunities at the school that I was foolish enough to transfer to. I love my high school. It was a great situation. It was a wonderful situation, academically and socially. I wouldn't, even though I love Lincoln Park, my time at Lincoln Park High School, I thank God that I transferred to Western High School. I don't know if I would have made it out of Lincoln Park, because I was around my friends, and my friends were academically inclined, and they would have pushed me and embarrassed me to no end if I wouldn't have. But I don't know if I would have made it socially. So I'm glad I went to Westinghouse instead of Lincoln Park, but I didn't have the same opportunities academically. And because I had a great mother who had 3 sets of encyclopedia and made me do book reports on a monthly basis at my house, I was able to keep up academically and be. But guess what? Most of my friends at Lincoln Park High School, most of them attempted to go to college. Most of my friends at Westerhouse, even though it was academics, the academics was trending towards vocation. Most of them are not in that vocation, and most of them didn't go to college. See the difference? See the difference? It needs to be almost like a communist state where everyone has the exact same. You need to be able to take French. You need to be able to take Spanish. You need to even be able to take something like Mandarin, because the Asian population is growing at an alarming rate. You need to be able to do those things so you can potentially put yourself in a better situation. You need to interact with other people from the remainder of the city. Chicago shouldn't be so segregated. West Siders should integrate with South Siders. South Siders should integrate with West Siders. Guess what? This makes the community stronger and better. We need to engage that way. We need to be talking about agriculture. We need to start, and this is what the Supreme Court would afford you. This is academics. Because guess what? In the state of Oklahoma, if you teach history properly, you can be suspended. In the state of Texas, you can get the same thing. It's the same thing. In Arizona, you can get the same thing. In Florida, you can get the same thing because they don't want you teaching, what is it? I think of it a second. They don't want you teaching critical race theory. They don't want you teaching critical race theory. And critical race theory, again, is a master's level class, but they disguise it by saying critical race theory is accurate history. Accurate history is critical race theory. You need to know that that church in South Carolina, that Delmar Vesey, a former enslaved brother, created a church that's still standing to this day. And on the anniversary of Delmar Vesey's attempt at enslavement revolt, 3,800 people. That's the day that dude Dylan Ruth went in there and shot up that church. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't, oh man, he just did something rambling. That was a message sent. You need to have people on stand your ground when you shooting random black people. You need to have the Supreme Court saying that the president, if he does something illegal, he needs to go to jail. You need to have something in place that police officers will walk into the house like they did in Springfield. You should get a needle. You shouldn't do time. You should get the needle. And I'm not even an advocate of the death penalty, but him, he don't need to see tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And it may sound insanely cruel to you, but I'm just telling you the truth. When you walk in when I personally believe he walked into that woman's house with the intent to destroy her. He wanted to unalive her. So if you are brazen enough to walk in somebody's house with the intent to murder them and you murder them, I don't know if you need to see tomorrow. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not asking you to align yourself with it. It's just, if that was my sister, aunt, significant other, cousin, niece, friend, I would want that. So this is what the Supreme Court allows. This is what people in these powerful situations don't want you to have the intestinal fortitude to rise up and say enough. The slogan that Vice President Harris used, we're not going back. We need to be talking about going forward. Forward is the way. And again, I want you to understand these things. The last thing I want to talk about is celebrity. Celebrities in the United States of America are the worst group of people in the history of the world today. What some of them, because you have other people like Luther Campbell. Who would have ever thought? Well, y'all didn't think it, but because I grew up in the hip hop culture, I knew he was that type of dude. But who would have ever thought the portrayal of one Luther Campbell that has been given to the world is the wrong thing? I knew it was the wrong thing because Luther Campbell, they always talk about Mount Rushmore of this and Mount Rushmore. Luther Campbell would be on my Mount Rushmore hip hop music, hip hop culture. Y'all always a rapper. You got to be no, don't. The Mount Rushmore are the greatest influencer in the country up until that point. Luther Campbell will always be on H-Rap's Mount Rushmore simply because he gave rap music freedom of speech. Now you might hear people saying stupid stuff now, but he didn't say you couldn't say stupid stuff. He said you had a right to say what you wanted to say, and you need that. And Luther Campbell used to be questioning, and I didn't even get upset with one Luther Campbell for questioning Vice President Harris because Luther Campbell is on Twitter on a regular basis speaking about issues in regards to the country on a regular basis. He's actually run for governor and mayor. So this is a dude who is gainfully engaged on a regular basis. So with that being said, we're in a situation to ask other celebrities who are raw dog stupid. And I'm not calling you ignorant anymore, because ignorant is I don't know because I didn't have access to the information. When you have a dumbass like Jermaine Dupri who's walking down the street, walking a bike down the street talking about, I just finished my 5 miles, ain't sweating at all, because you live in Atlanta. If you rode a bike 5 miles in Atlanta, you'd be sweating like a hog. But anyway, he's talking about, when I sat down and talked to Vice President Harris, you a lie. You a lie. You a lie. You are a paid operative. Other people won't say it, but I will. Sue me if you like. I think you a lie. You a coon and a sellout. And I usually don't use that type of language, but I am. I'm sick of these suckers coming out all of a sudden. Every 4 Februaries, y'all show up and not a specific party, but I can't hear nothing you say before then. After that, it's back to business, back to partying, smoking weed and drinking. I don't want to hear nothing else. Other clowns, like, can you believe that this jackass Tiger Woods stood up in front of the world and said he's offended by Kamala Harris trying to talk black? You're not even black, bro. Homie, you're not things. Even Tavis Smiley puts in the book. I don't agree with everything, but it's worth the conversation. This clown Ice Cube shows up and starts talking about we need to support a white nationalist. You jackass. He told you he was going to get a black community $500 million. Do you understand that the United States federal government only spends $500 million annually? So he going to turn the whole United States federal government budget over to us. You dumbass. Stop. And I usually don't use this kind of language, but when you are stupid, you need to be attacked. I'm sorry, y'all. Look, at the end of the day, we can no longer listen to these people who are clearly getting paid to say and do what they're told in order to bring our communities in disarray. If you're a millionaire and you talking about what I shouldn't do, if you don't have a plan on what I should do and not a copy and paste plan on what I should do, shut up, stupid. Shut up, stupid. You are a disgrace to the race. Khalid Abdul Muhammad told us about you in the 90s. When you walked away from here, you're going to put him in the song, I'm going to step up and make you vomit down with Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And then you kick some Islamic stuff after that. And he told everybody you walked away from him when it got thick. So now, we don't hear nothing from you, O'Shea. And the rest of you bozos that keep showing up talking about what she is or is not doing. Look, white nationalism versus a person you may or may not be able to trust. Stop. You have to be some type of damn fool to buy into the Ice Cubes, the Jermaine Dupri. You mean the same Jermaine Dupri who my age and every dude my age in America that's from the community used to drool over Janet Jackson, and you dated her and you cheated on her with a stripper? You 30% retarded, bro. Stop. Stop. With that being said, man, I want us to understand that we cannot deal with any more anti-black rhetoric. No more. We can no longer start cutting people in half and talking about what percentage black they are, because y'all used to love that bozo Eldridge Wood. And then he told y'all he wasn't down and y'all still claimed a bunch of y'all still went out and bought golf clubs. Nope, not didn't. And then you got people like Jermaine Dupri, Tyrese crying on Internet Gibson. Come on, man. Stop. You bozos, stop. Y'all don't have our interest in mind. You're sitting in a Maybach or a limousine or a Yukon flying first class. The average person in the community is not doing that. We flying on Jet, we flying on Spirit, we flying on Southwest. We ain't even trying to get on America. We ain't trying to spend that extra unnecessary bread. Look, this is why we need to understand policy. We need to understand procedure, and we need to identify the ills of our communities so we can come together as a group and fix them. We can no longer listen to these clowns because they do not mean us any good. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. I am H-Rap B. I will see you soon. It has been a pleasure. Again, this episode brought to you by the Style Gods. This is my new sponsor. Thank you guys. That Style God it's awful dope. Really appreciate it. Style Gods brought to you. At the End of the Bench Media brought to you by Style Gods. This your man H-Rap B. 2 fingers, 1 word, and I'm out.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they dying for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for tithes, now his people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brain. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him 2 to the brain. It's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't. You thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang. Killed our women and our children. All our leaders is slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth in the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant to advance. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't. You thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang. Killed our women and our children. All our leaders is slain. It's all a game.
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench media that's bold, black,